He's an active duty police detective. He's here to talk about an investigation of a serial rapist that terrorized a community he worked in, how he apprehended him after escaping from jail. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. In the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, we are joined by special guests talking about their experiences, the realities of investigating crimes, plus those who have experienced horrendous trauma. Police, first responders, military, and victims of crime share their stories. Hi, I'm John J. Wiley. In addition to being a broadcaster, I'm also a retired police sergeant. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com, and also like us on Facebook. Search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. The Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show is brought to you in part by Breakfast with Champions rooms in the Clubhouse drop-in social audio chat app. By the way, download the app today. It is free. And also join us in Breakfast with Champions, also free. I'm there almost every day of the week, every weekday morning. It's a great place to educate yourself, get some motivation, inspiration, and make friends from all over the planet. That's the Breakfast with Champions rooms in the Clubhouse drop-in social audio app. Get it today. It is free. Both are free. Get more details online at thebwcinfo.com. Calling us from South Florida, we have Wayne Cox on the phone. Wayne is an active duty Miami-Dade Police Detective, correct?
Detective/officer, yes, sir,
Awesome.
Correct.
And you've been doing this how long, Wayne?
I've been doing it for 27 years, sir, 27.
Okay, first rule of this radio thing is I'm a retired sergeant, so you don't call me sir anymore, and I get it. I still find that old habit of calling people sir and ma'am, and old habits die hard. But thank you for your service. I do appreciate it very much. In 27 years, is it fair to say you've been through a lot, seen a lot, done a lot?
Yes, I have. I started off on the road, went to specialized units. I worked community policing for many years, resolving issues in the community, making the community of Miami a better place. I went to narcotics. I was a narcotics detective for over 5.5 years, basically doing a lot of narcotics transactions, buying, selling, doing prostitution, just like Miami Vice Squad. And then I worked warrants for over 5.5 years, going ahead and tracking down the worst of the worst, bringing back fugitives from all around the United States. And right now I'm stationed at the Port of Miami, basically just dealing with the community, dealing with passengers on cruise ships, and just trying to keep everybody safe and so forth.
Wayne is also author of the book, Miami Panic, Story of Wayne Cox and the Shenandoah Rapist. In my police career, I did have to investigate a few rapes. I was able to find one serial rapist and incarcerate him, have him arrested. He was found guilty. Very difficult case to solve because it's stranger on stranger crime. And most crimes of violence, it's usually someone the victim knows. So when it's a total stranger, it's very difficult. You, I'm sure, have done all that.
Yes, Jay, I've done that. With this case, with the Shenandoah Rapist, this was a very unique case because it really affected Miami. You had a individual that raped over 7-8 women, ages from 11 to 79 years old. The one that was 11 years old, he was able to target her when she came home. He was able to knock at the door. He actually, like most of these predators, they scope out potential victims, and he was able to go ahead and gain entry into her residence when she came from school. Unfortunately, her mother is a single mother, so she was away at work. When he went ahead and knocked on the door, he was able to force himself in. He raped her for over 1 hour. Nobody should ever have to go through that. And he was a very sick individual that was able to go under the radar because naturally the area that where he lived at was the area that we call Shenandoah. It's in Miami. And it made worldwide news, believe it or not, because nobody knew who this individual was when he was raping. He was able to go ahead, target his individuals, and then go ahead and to then just disappear. So it was a very big ordeal because of not only the amount of people that he raped, but also the age and so forth.
One of the things, and I hear this all the time, is, the police don't care. We do care. very much. And we don't care what walk of life the victim came from, especially when it comes to crimes of violence. And I certainly am one of those people who believe that rape is a crime of violence. It is not a sexual crime. It is a violent crime. Having said that, serial rapists often become serial killers. When I say serial, meaning they do it repeatedly. You said earlier in the conversation, they look for a certain type of victim. They stalk them. They do some preparation. That's all part of the thrill for them. And it's all part of the buildup. But they're also pros at blending in and not sticking out. It's not going to be like the boogeyman down the street and looks scary. It's going to look like the guy that's right down the street that you wave hello to every day.
Most definitely correct. And that's the sad thing and the scary thing about it, because how does a sexual predator look? No, there's no look. It could be anybody. It could be from somebody that you know, a family member, or a stranger on the street, somebody that you would go ahead and confide in. And so with this particular case, he was able to go ahead and blend into the community. He knew that, and that's what he was able to go ahead and capitalize. It's almost like a lion. When you see certain predators out there in the wild, they always go for the weakest. They always go for the elderly or the youngest, and they sit back and they're able to go ahead and watch, and then they go ahead and then execute their plan. And this is why he was so dangerous, because naturally nobody knew how this particular person looked. And so he was able to go ahead from 2002 to 2003, terrorize Miami, the Shenandoah area of Miami. And, you had a big task force that was trying to go ahead and find this individual. And it was really very difficult, because he was able to go ahead and blend in, like I said. And pretty much this is why the community has to go ahead and basically reach out to each other so they know who belongs in the community. They got to almost think like police officers. Like, as being a police officer, we know that we have those instincts that when we see somebody, we see something that's out of the ordinary, and then we can say, well, wait a minute, that's strange. Well, what I try to do, because I'm an advocate, I try to educate women and children to kind of think like law enforcement. If they see something that is not looking, as kosher, then give law enforcement call us. Because we have our dispatchers that that we're always waiting to go ahead and to go to a particular call. So the main thing is that the community has to be aware. They have to be able to communicate, know their neighbors. And so if they see, say, somebody that's actually hanging around the neighborhood, they'll go ahead and, reach out to their neighbors. And then if they cannot reach out to the neighbors to verify, they can reach out to law enforcement.
One of the things that I say, again, I hate this phrase. I say it all the time. I don't care whether someone believes in God, Mother Nature, or whatever it is. If something makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, makes you uncomfortable, those are God-given or nature-given instincts designed to help you survive and stay alive. Trust them, follow them. You can always apologize later on if you're wrong. And I've been wrong before. I'm not a saint by any, or perfect by any measure of description. However, most of the time, as a cop, when something made me feel hanky, and I'm using air quotes, when somebody was doing something that was out of the norm almost every time, I'd say 99.5% of the time, they were usually a criminal and they're usually violent.
That's 100%. And, God has given us what we call a sixth sense. You're there, you're watching a certain person, you're saying, wait a minute, something's not right, time of day, somebody doesn't fit in. A lot of times we don't, we want to be politically correct and say, well, you know what, I just don't want to go ahead and call the police or because maybe I might, somebody might get the wrong impression. But those are things that we have in our instincts to feel like when something's out of place. And I was saying, just imagine if some neighbor or somebody went ahead and when they saw him in the community hanging out maybe on the street corner or doing something, if they went ahead and called the police, maybe all these women wouldn't have been raped.
We're going to take a short break. We're talking with Wayne Cox, Miami-Dade Police Detective. Don't go anywhere. This is the Law Enforcement Show. There's so much more to talk about. We'll be right back. What is a desiccator cabinet? A desiccator cabinet is a specialized cabinet that maintains a low humidity environment to preserve your valuable samples and substances, preventing degradation. Where can you find the best selection, service, and great prices on desiccator cabinets? The answer is simple. DesiccatorCabinetsDirect.com. Go online and visit DesiccatorCabinetsDirect.com. That's DesiccatorCabinetsDirect.com. Now available on Amazon.
Breakfast with Champions is the tool I use in the morning to get myself ready to face the world. There is so much negativity as you move about your day from traffic to politics. The conversations are motivating and inspiring, and I can face the world with a positive attitude. So join us in the Breakfast with Champions rooms. Download the Clubhouse app today for free and join us soon. Online at www.thebwcinfo.com.
Return conversation with Wayne Cox. He is a Miami-Dade police detective, a police officer. He's also author of the book Miami Panic, story of Wayne Cox and the Shenandoah Rapist. I didn't know until now Shenandoah was part of an area of Miami. And I'm from Virginia and Maryland originally, and the Shenandoah Mountains is the first thing I thought of. This has nothing to do with that, does it?
That's correct. It's an area in Miami. It's a small area, mostly populated by Hispanic culture, and it's an old neighborhood, and it's a very tight neighborhood with a sense of you have schools, you have multiple stores and stuff like that, and so that's definitely Miami. Shenandoah is in Miami, and I know you have many other Shenandoah areas around the United States.
So this guy was nicknamed the Shenandoah Rapist because of the area where he was raping, and he was a serial rapist. About how many victims was he charged with?
Well, officially 7, but he was also an undocumented individual from Honduras. And so what a lot of people probably felt that he probably raped a lot of women, but unfortunately some of the women might have been undocumented, and so they would not go ahead because of the police and might feel that they might be deported. They did not report it. So officially 7, but many people have maybe quoted that this guy was doing this for many, many years. So it could be way over 12, 15, 20 women that he raped.
And his youngest victim, I believe you said, was 11?
11 years old. And unfortunately, he was able to stalk out her residence. She was coming from school. And, the mother was a single mother working many hours to support her daughter. She was away at work, and apparently he scoped her out maybe for a couple of days because to know her actual routine. And when he knew that she was home, he went ahead, knocked on the door. She opened the door. He forced himself in, and he raped her for over 1 hour. And it's so sad because, when you hear her testimony and what she had to go through, with this person doing this heinous act, it really hit a nerve. And that's probably the reason why not only the 11 and 79 and multiple women, so many people were in the community, they weren't able to go ahead, and they were scared that they were their kids, and he really terrorized the whole neighborhood for over a year because nobody knew exactly who he was. And so it was definitely a time in Miami history that a lot of people were just scared to go out. They had their kids in the home. And so it was a very historic time in Miami, unfortunately, because of that particular individual doing what he did.
One of the things I think of right away, Wayne, is Ted Bundy. And when we think of serial killers / serial rapists, and many times these serial rapists turn into serial killers because they don't want to leave potential witnesses behind. So it's very much about self-preservation. It's horrible what happened to these victims. And we could go on and on about the efforts they have to repair their lives afterwards and rebuild their lives. And they are superhuman in my experience because they find a way to generate the life they want to have. Ted Bundy's last victim was a 12-year-old girl in Lake City, Florida, that he abducted from a middle school campus. She was going back to, I believe, a classroom when she left her purse. And I think her name was Kimberly Leach. And he was able to convince her, these are how skilled these people are, to put herself in a vulnerable situation and wound up murdering her. What I'm getting at is these people practice getting people to do what they want. And the number one thing I always tell my daughters, my sisters, my wife is to develop a mindset of I'm not the one. I'm not the one you want to mess with. You said earlier in the conversation, just like lions, just like tigers, just like leopards, they pick out their prey is a more vulnerable, it's either youngest, injured, or oldest animal, because even a gazelle, if they kick and break your jaw, you're done. The predator is done. These 100%. Predators look for people that they can convince that will do them no harm. They convince them to put themselves in harm's way, but they won't harm them. That's the first thing to look for.
100%, and that's why it's so important for everybody to talk to, people in your family. Talk to your daughter, talk to your mothers, talk to, your aunts, and let them know, first of all, if they ever see anything that's out of the ordinary, how to go ahead and act, how to go ahead and always, because prevention is better than an ounce of cure.
Right.
So you have to, when I said think like a police officer, you have to always go ahead with women and children. If they see something suspicious, okay, always be prepared, always thinking ahead of time. So, a lot of times we, unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. And so we have to go ahead and make sure that we talk to our certain people that might be a potential target on ways to stay safe, on ways if they feel uncomfortable, to be always looking at your surroundings, always before you go into your residence, if you see something is wrong. If you're driving from a certain location, to make sure you're not being followed.
Right.
Because these predators, that's exactly what they do. They go ahead, they have a pattern, they have a routine, and so we have to go ahead and educate the public to think like law enforcement, to go ahead and to understand that sixth sense, that if they feel something is not right, to actually not to suppress it, but to go ahead and to bring it out, to go ahead and act on the suspicion. And that could be either by, alerting somebody, letting them know, listen, something is going on, I feel somebody's following me, or just basically calling the police. And this is what we have to do to go ahead and try to, keep the public safe, because one rape is too much.
Right.
And,
it is.
And that's what we have to do.
And some people are readily discount. Look, I knew there's something wrong with this guy, but I didn't want to take a chance and give bad information. They're not going to lock the guy up based off your phone call. They'll look at him and find out. I was watching, I think it was Oprah show a long time ago, Wayne, and the person who was on a show, I don't even remember what her name was, but she said she pulled into her driveway of her house, as a townhouse, and the first thing she noticed was the trash cans were out of place. And she discounted, like, oh, yeah, not a big deal. I'm going to pull in the garage. What she didn't realize was the attacker was hiding behind the trash cans. That's why they were out of place. And I think someone used the term, those are signs that will let you know something is seriously wrong. When you see something that is seriously wrong that makes you go, something's not right here, it's okay. And in this case, to throw your car in reverse and drive off somewhere else and call 911 and say, I got a bad feeling. Can you have a police officer come to my house and just check me it's okay? That's all you got to do. If there's nothing to it, guess what? No harm, no foul. You live another day and things are much better. If there was a bad guy there, you may have just saved your life and possibly saved the life of many others. We are talking with Wayne Cox. He is a 27-year veteran police detective with the Miami-Dade Police Department. He's also author of the book Miami Panic, Story of Wayne Cox and his Shenandoah Rapist. This is the Law Enforcement Show. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Breakfast with Champions is my morning go-to. Working from home and being an empty nester, sometimes I really need to feel connected to people. I just open the Clubhouse social audio app and I can listen in or participate in the live conversation in the Breakfast with Champions show. It's a great way to connect with people and be inspired. Breakfast with Champions, where everyone has a seat at the table. Download the Clubhouse app today for free and join me in Breakfast with Champions.
Online at www.thebwcinfo.com.
You can find us on Facebook. Just search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and be sure to click like. Return conversation with Wayne Cox. He is a 27-year veteran of the Miami-Dade Police Department. He is a police detective. He's also author of the book Miami Panic, story of Wayne Cox and the Shenandoah Rapist. Back earlier, we talked about this rapist, and I don't believe in giving out names of bad guys. I don't want to give them any publicity whatsoever. He was eventually arrested, tried on 7 assaults, and was convicted and sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms, correct?
That is correct.
That's the last I'm going to mention of him and his name. I'm not going to give his name. So this guy's on the loose. He's raping women from age 11 to in their 70s. And the period of time we're talking about is roughly 2 years, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And Miami, just like everywhere else, once these things start popping up and people become aware of them, it almost creates, like the name of your book, the Miami Panic. It creates a panic environment where, like, am I going to be next? And am I a potential victim? Is the guy next door the rapist? It must have created a very uncomfortable situation for everybody in that area.
Most definitely. And it's between 2002 and 2003. And what happened was that you had a major task force that was constructed to go ahead and to apprehend this individual. At the time, nobody knew. They had a description, and because of many different women that he was raping, you would go ahead and get different description of how he looked and so forth. And they tried to do a sketch, but with the whole task force, unfortunately, many people were stopped. Many people were, detained in the sense of following the actual the pictures and the actual information that they had, but they could not go ahead and find this individual. Well, thank God, one day or one night, it was a sergeant, a City of Miami police sergeant, that was out looking for this particular rapist and had a vehicle. He was in a vehicle, and apparently I think he was scoping out his next victim. And a traffic stop was initiated. And with the traffic stop, the sergeant went ahead and realized that he did fit some of the description, and they did their investigation. There was a lot of DNA that was also left on many of the scenes from him raping multiple women. So naturally, once they went ahead and detained him, they were able to go ahead and do a DNA. And then once they found out that the DNA was matched to all these multiple rapes, they knew they had the Shenandoah Rapist. At that time, the chief was, or the head gentleman of the city of Miami was Chief Timothy. And he was very happy that the city was now able to rest, that they had this individual in custody. While he was in custody, waiting for trial, he was able to come up with a plan to escape from our TGK. That's the jail that he escaped from, with having sheets as a rope. And he was able to propel himself from a 9-foot building to the bottom floor. He had help. He had other individual that they broke out of jail together. He got caught because he went ahead and fell and he broke his leg. But the Shenandoah Rapist, he was able to scale over the wall, over the gate, and he was on loose for about over a week. Within that week, you can imagine that all the women that he raped, they were terrorized because naturally they didn't know that he was going to come back, try to kill them or whatever. So here we go again, the multiple task force locating this guy that escaped now from jail, like a Hollywood escape. The unit that I belonged to was the Tactical Narcotics Team. That's TNT. That's actually where the movie, believe it or not, Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3 was copied from my unit. We're the original TNT. And we were called upon to go ahead and locate. We had over 179 tips. The tip that I got, me and Detective Velez, that was my partner, we followed up on that tip. We located an individual fit in the description. He was able to shave all his mustache and everything because he was on the loose. We didn't know if he was still in Miami or wherever he was, but we followed up on that tip from the public, and we found him in over in a parking garage or a parking lot, and we were able to go ahead and we looked at him. He lost a lot of weight. He said, this could be the guy right here. He was saying that no, he's from Honduras. He's a legal immigrant, and he's not the person we're looking for. But we kept on drilling him, and we're like, no, this guy got to be it. Once he realized that he could not go ahead and fool us, he took off on foot. We had a big pursuit on foot through the parking lot. Fortunately, we had a K-9 unit because we had a task force looking for this individual, and the K-9 unit was able to help us apprehend which is the Shenandoah Rapist. And around that time, it was Christmas, so you have to understand the whole city was on ease, that this guy was back on the loose. He escaped from jail. And but when we got him, it was a big relief to the whole city, to the family, to the young girl who he raped, the elderly woman. And so that was really one of the most crucial time in my life, because naturally, he couldn't rape. I have a daughter, I have a mother, and so everybody took it personal to go ahead and apprehend him, because we knew that this guy, is a very sick individual, and naturally, as you said, a lot of rapists end up being murderers too, because that's why they're serial rapists.
Right. And
so it was such a relief for the whole city. That's why I called the book Miami Panic, because the whole city panicked. Because that's what he did.
They panicked twice. They had original rapist spree that they knew about, and everybody's walking around, am I a potential victim? Is somebody watching me? It's like that old Rockwell song, I get a feeling somebody's watching me. And then he's arrested. You can breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, we got him. He's not going anywhere. And then he escapes from jail, and he's back on the loose, and everybody is up in arms and worried again, and rightfully so. One of the big differences is, in the early investigation, they didn't know who he was. They're trying to go by description, and descriptions vary from individual to individual. So you and I both know that you can't put a lot of stock in descriptions. You use that to narrow down who you're going to look for. But the sketches they come up with, the forensic sketches,
exactly,
almost never look like the guy we're looking for. When they caught him, like, oh my goodness, it doesn't even look like the guy. So, and they've done studies where they had 5 people lined up like a bank robbery, a staged bank robbery, and every one of them gave a slightly different description. So it's difficult tracking down the guy just based off description. What's also difficult, and maybe you can elaborate on, is once you know who he is, he escaped, you have photos of him. We had photos in our police car, and they never look like they do in a photo, and you're like, is this the guy? Is this not the guy? Is this the guy? And your instincts are saying, this is the guy, and I don't want to be the cop who lets him go.
Correct.
It's got to be a tremendous amount of pressure on you.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened, because while he was in jail, he lost over 50 or 40 or 60 pounds. So the sketch that we had, and then he went ahead, he didn't have his beard and so forth, and he was able to go ahead and try to disguise himself, was definitely not what we had on our actual bolo, be on the lookout. So, he was able, and then he was very smart to go ahead and blend in, and he was going from down the railroad tracks, hiding and so forth. And so you're 100% right. A lot of times, when you have victims and they go ahead and try to give you a description of how the individual looks, a lot of times, the sketch artist will try to do their best. But you're 100% right, because when you look at how from the first initial time when he was out there raping multiple women, and we didn't have any sketch of how he looked, and to when we actually apprehended him, 2 different, they did not even look like the sketch.
And I want to say it's funny how that happens, but it's not funny because it happens every day. We're talking with Wayne Cox. Wayne is a career law enforcement officer. He is a police detective in Miami-Dade in South Florida. He is also the author of the book Miami Panic, Story of Wayne Cox and his Shenandoah Rapist. This is the Law Enforcement Show. We have much more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Do you want to be a guest on Law Enforcement Talk Radio show and podcast? It's really quite simple. And before you get into this notion that I'm not a cop, I wasn't a cop, I don't have something to contribute. Well, the show is about investigating crime. That's one aspect of it from the real life perspective of those who did it. And then it's also about trauma, how trauma impacted them. Often crime-based, but not always. Our guests quite often are law enforcement officers, other first responders, military, victims of crime, their spouses, or survivors, talking about how trauma impacted them, what happened, how it affected their lives, and how they rebuilt their lives after. If you want to be a guest, just contact me. It's really simple. send an email to jay@letradio.com. That's jay@letradio.com. Or go to letradio.com and the Contact Us page, and you can get me right there as well. Return conversation with Wayne Cox on the Law Enforcement Show. Wayne is a police detective, Miami-Dade Police Department, 27 years on the job. He is also author of the book, Miami Panic, story of Wayne Cox and the Shenandoah Rapist. Before we went to break, Wayne, you're talking about the Shenandoah Rapist was eventually arrested. He's put in jail awaiting trial. 7 assaults. He's since been convicted to 5 life terms. He escaped from jail. And I believe reading somewhere when he was caught, he had a saw or something on him that they think he used to help break out?
That's correct. He did have a saw that was on him when we went ahead and apprehend him. And most likely that's what happened. He was able to go ahead. TGK is the jail that he was actually at, waiting for trial for all the multiple rapes that he did. So he was able to get the sheets and make a rope from the sheets, and he was able to propel down the wall and to escape.
When you found him, and I want to go back to this, I remember my police career having photos, bolos, being on the lookout for this individual. And you think you see him, you're like, is that him? Is that not him? Or I was like, oh, look, it is him. And then it's like you move forward and try to apprehend him. When you had this guy cornered, he was giving you another name. I remember being a young patrolman, and I had some young guys stop for, I don't remember what it was, Wayne. And I asked them their names, and the guy goes, Michael Jordan. And I'm like, yeah, I know who Michael Jordan is. That ain't him. You know, people will give you bad information, and they are so convincing about what they say. They almost have you second-guessing yourself like, oh, yeah, maybe I am got the wrong guy. Maybe it's not him. Did you have that internal conflict when you and your partner stopped them?
Amazing. Exactly. I had the same conflict inside, wondering, knowing, your gut feeling is saying, you got this guy. But then also questioning, which, because unfortunately, as law enforcement, we want to make sure that we get everything right the first time. And naturally, that was something that was going through our minds, me and my partner. But we knew, we had the sixth sense. We knew that, something was wrong. We felt it. We kept on pressing, and he knew that, listen, he was cornered, like an animal when he's cornered, and he took off on foot. And once he took off on foot, running him down and saying in my mind, that's where my faith came in, to my God, because I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that things happen for a reason. I believe that God puts us in certain situations to help out the public, and we all have a certain good. We have all a calling to do great things. It doesn't matter if you're a police officer. It doesn't matter if you work taking out trash or doing whatever you do. You are definitely here to make the world better. And I was running after him, and I said, if he escaped, that means he could kill somebody. He could rape somebody. And I remember when I was thinking about giving up because, we were running for a long time, and I had to reach into my inner spirit, and I said that we can do all things, for God, for those who believe. And apparently as soon as I said that, I had this energy, this burst of energy that just came upon me. And I continued to go ahead, and we were able to go ahead and tackle him and bring him to the ground. And that's where we found the actual saw that he had, that he used to cut out of the bars. And so it was just realizing at that point that, that I was, my job, because being a police officer, sometimes, we do it because, we have a calling. Not everybody can be a police officer. And sometimes, you might not get the public that gives you the positive praises. And that's why I also wrote the book, because I wanted to go ahead and educate the public about how sometimes as being a law enforcement officer, you join the job, you try to arrest the same people. Sometimes the system, they allow them to get out. Sometimes, you might not get positive praise from the public, but you're doing something good for the better of society. And so with my book, I try to go ahead and educate the public, because a lot of times officers could get frustrated and wondering, is this the right position? Is this the right job? Did I go ahead and make the right decision? Well, I would tell every law enforcement officer, you are ordained by God to do great things, to keep the public safe. and you have a calling, not everybody can do it. And it is where sometimes we might not get the positive praise, but you know that you're making a difference in society. And so I wanted to share my story with my book to let people know that we all have a calling to make this world better. And it doesn't matter if you're a police officer, it doesn't matter if you work at whatever job. Once you're trying to better humanity, to make people's life better, to educate people, to help people, that's the whole calling of being a law enforcement officer.
It is.
And
we used to have a saying, Wayne, if you want to be loved by everybody and be a hero, be a firefighter.
Exactly.
That's what we said. Even back in the 80s, there was a segment of the population who did not like police. They never will, and they're very vocal, and no matter what you do, but your obligation to them is the same as the people who love and support you. We would show up anyway and make sure that your son survived. Here's a really frustrating part. I know you went through this 27-year career. It's inevitable. The last people who saw my face quite often in Baltimore were young men who were shot and killed and took their dying breath. And it wasn't their family members there. It wasn't politicians. And it certainly wasn't activists. And it wasn't the news media. It was Baltimore police. In your case, Miami-Dade Police. And you're trying to let them know, even though you know they're probably not going to make it, you're there for them.
Exactly. And you know, I thank God for the Miami-Dade Police. I thank God for all the police stations and all the police around the United States and around the world. Because, you know, we don't have an easy job. But as I say, we're in it for the right reason. We're making a difference in the community. And I know with the Miami-Dade Police Department, we have great leadership from our director all the way down to our sergeants. That is very professional, that we care about the community. We do great things to go ahead and to make the community better. And so I just want to go ahead and let everybody know that, you know, police, we are your friends. We are here to help. And, you know, unfortunately, I know there's been a lot of things in the media where defund the police and where they're trying to say, you know, because of maybe 1% of bad apples, which is very small, that means that we're all the same. No, the majority, 99.99% of police officers are there. They're professionals. They're there to help the community. And so I want to share my story because I know my calling now is to make the world better. My calling, I do public speaking. I am a motivator. And I realize that, you know, for me, this whole thing with the Shenandoah Rapist, it made me look at life in perspective, to make me realize that not only how blessed and how fortunate I am, but I can also go ahead and educate women on how to stay safe, educate children. So that's my calling, that I want to go ahead and to help the public stay safe, to help other law enforcement officers that sometimes might be frustrated because they don't get the positive praise from the community, and let them know that you're getting praise from our Father, God, Jesus Christ, right, that you are making a legacy. You are doing a task that not too many people can do.
So you're motivational speaker. Where can people get information about you and your motivational speaking?
Yes, well, basically, I'm on Facebook. People can look me up on Facebook. My book is online, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Walmart. Just put Miami Panic. And for my Spanish family, I had also in the Spanish version, which is called Panico in Miami. So naturally, if anybody wants to go ahead and reach out, they can go ahead and just either go on Facebook, keyword Wayne Cox City, Miami, and message me on the messenger. And so basically, I'm always here to go ahead and to make the community better and to educate people and motivate people.
And I think that's how I found you. I saw a news article about you and your social media. I looked you up and sent you a direct message, and he replied. So if you want to get in touch with Wayne Cox, just look him up online. Again, look for the book. The book is called Miami Panic, Story of Wayne Cox and the Shenandoah Rapist. He is a 27-year veteran of the Miami-Dade Police Department, still an active police detective. Wayne, I want to thank you very much for your service. Very much appreciated. And I really thank you for coming on a show, telling your story. And it's very much greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. And thank you for what you have done by educating the public, your talk show, your podcast. You have taking the calling that God has put in your life to do great things, to be an advocate for law enforcement. And so I want to go ahead and thank you for all that you have done. And I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank all the police officers that are actually around the whole world, around the United States. And I want to tell them and encourage them that, listen, you guys and ladies and everybody under the force, you guys are doing a great job. And your blessings will come, maybe not from the praise of the certain individual, but from our God, Jesus Christ. So continue, fight the good fight, and do great things, and know that you have been selected to go ahead and make a difference in this world.
This was a podcast version of the nationally syndicated Law Enforcement Talk radio show, and we are so glad that you decided to join us. Big thanks to our guests for telling their story on the show. 2 simple things you can do. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com. That's letradio.com. And be sure to follow us or like us on Facebook. Do a search on Facebook for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. And be sure when you see a post that we put up that you like, that you resonate with, that gets your attention, be sure to share it with your friends. We'll be back in just a few days with another great episode of the show. See you then.